And Hockey Canada and its members passed a set of bylaw changes proposed in a third-party review of the group's governance. Now, these changes include applications for vacant board of directors positions, including the chair, being approved now by an independent committee before they make it to the ballot. The new board that'll be elected in December will also have a one-year so-called transition term rather than the standard 2 years. And the entire board and CEO, we know that they just resigned this past week following the backlash in this ongoing sex assault settlement scandal. And this all comes as TSN reporter Rick Westhead is reporting that some of the major sponsors that cut ties with Hockey Canada are now considering making it permanent. And it's really tarnished their image. Marketing expert and host of Chatter That Matters, Tony Chapman, joins me now live via FaceTime with more. Tony, thanks very much for being here.
Always a pleasure, George. Good to see you.
Likewise. There's an old expression, you can't save your butt and your face at the same time. Hockey Canada chose butt even when faced with scandal. Why?
You know, this is a classic case in what not to do. Since May, they've been just stalling, pulling off this Band-Aid and revealing more and more festering wounds. These allegations are correct. And you have to understand, sponsorship is about connecting yourself to positive halos, somebody else's attention. In Hockey Canada at the time, young kids playing hockey all the way to Sidney Crosby scoring the goal. You couldn't find a better property. But when these allegations started appearing, the board and the leadership failed to act. Obviously, the sponsors stood aside. But what's happening now is an expression, I'll give one back to you, George, once bitten, twice shy. They don't know what other skeletons are in the closet. They don't know what is going on culturally. All three major sponsors, Canadian Tire, TELUS, and Scotiabank, have all used meaningful change to culture. That doesn't happen overnight. That's not just leadership. That's parents stopping to idolize their kids at age 7, thinking they're going to be the next Gretzky. That's coaches stopping with this uber competitiveness. That's getting more people involved in a sport that's becoming unaffordable. So we're talking about massive systemic change, and that is really what's going to be needed if you're going to get sponsors to come back and go for that beautiful spotlight that they once loved to put their brand underneath.
Well, look, the answer to every question is money. So, I mean, can they recover from possible permanent sponsor termination from some of the biggest historical sponsors here?
It's going to be almost impossible. And the only way is you can either tax parents. Hockey's already becoming very unaffordable. Well, I think only 8% of kids are now playing organized hockey.
Right.
So without that, then you're talking about government spending, taxpayer dollars in a world where we need to prioritize education and healthcare, try to recover from the pandemic. So it's going to be very difficult. But we have to remember one thing about Hockey Canada. They did deliver when it comes to winning championships. And that became part of Canada's identity. We sort of defined ourselves as this world champion. Hockey was what knit our family together, and that's something that our country together, and that's something we're missing right now when you're talking left versus east versus west, left versus right.
Well, it appears maybe that that blind faith to the hockey as religion in this country, that gospel, is what maybe contributed to allowing things to go south in the first place. No mirrors, no self-reflection or awareness. Where were the checks and balances, Tony? Who was in charge of that?
I think the entire culture is about these players being the heroes, and they could do no wrong, and you turned a blind eye. And, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about this, hazing at St. Mike's with their hockey team.
Right.
This is a culture that's existed for a very long time, and I do really blame it on the sense that a kid that shows some kind of promise at age 7 or 8, fast-tracked, uber competitive, they start having swagger. They're better than everybody else. It's fostered, it's fueled. They're AAA versus AA, and next thing you know, they're going to elite camps, and they're playing for hockey goalies in the summer. And all of this stuff manifests itself into the sense of this fake folklore that these are not just kids, and kids that should be just loving playing a sport. So it's part of Canada needing that goal, but it's also parents in the dressing room and coaches all the way across the board. We're going to have to see a lot of change, and I think we can learn a lot from the women hockey in terms of what they've done.
Yeah. This is a to-be-continued chat. Tony Chapman, branding and marketing guru and host of Chatter That Matters. Thanks very much. Talk again soon.
Always a pleasure, George.